everybody has this certain idea of who he's going to be. You know, you don't know what you're going to kind of be confronted with, and you don't know how much of him is like when he's outside. What is he like behind? You kind of just have a, it's it's just you're so like enamored by what's possible. You don't know who like, and so in that sense, I'm like, I just can't wait to meet the guy. And then when I met him and he brings this story, I was just like, okay, I get it. You know, there's so much there, you know, that like that maybe he's not being asked to show.
His entire demeanor was so the antithesis of what I would have imagined. I really thought he would be closer to The Rock. And then I realized that, and I said this to him on Jungle Cruise, I'm understanding now that The Rock is the performance of a lifetime. And I started to kind of ask him questions about how he created that character. And that's a self-generated character. That's a self-realized performance. And so I was like, you wrote it, you saw it, you've cried. Like, how many more bonkers people have you got lurking inside of you? So I was really interested in that and wondering if maybe he was just this great character actor that even he didn't maybe realize. And so when this came along and it was with Benny and it was just this visceral, exciting opportunity to for all of us to put our feet to the fire. All three of us felt that, that moment of terror of what you're trying to create is something very unique. And this was going to be, especially for DJ, I realized a very unique experience and a bit of a kind of launch into the unknown. But I think maybe Benny and I knew that he could do it.
It's not easy to think, hey, I'm capable of doing this and I know I can do this. You may seem maybe have a veneer that you're capable of it and you're confident, but I was very nervous and scared to do it because it's something that I hadn't done before. And for the first time in my career, I was taking all the stuff that I experienced in the past, traumatic stuff that I wish I hadn't, but I did go through. But I was finally having this opportunity to take it, access it, and then put it into something that I love, which is storytelling and acting. And I didn't know that that was possible until Emily and Benny but actually, I'm sorry. I knew it was possible. I was too scared to do it. That's it. And I reached a point where this voice was so resounding. First, it starts off as a whisper, and if you're not listening to it, it builds and builds and builds. And this happens in the world and the universe, I believe. Finally, that voice was so resounding, saying, "Hey, you can do this." And I didn't want to wake up tomorrow going, "God, or years from now, I really wish I got out of my comfort zone back then." I didn't want to wake up and say those things. I wanted to wake up and say, I'm so glad I got out of my comfort zone. I'm so glad I did it because
So
it just,
maybe
yeah. Thank you.
his friend, it's horrifying screaming at him in the kitchen and being that, sort of emotionally abusive to each other at times. I think what helped is he didn't look anything like him. So I think that in some ways was like looking at somebody who I didn't recognize as well. And that was in itself very transporting. And then it's the environment that Benny creates that is one of such spontaneity that you really blur the lines between fiction and reality. So it makes the scenes terribly exciting, but I think it makes them quite hard to come down from because you're really in a spell.
When you're holding on to somebody for dear life, I do know what that feels like. And it's not fun. And it's not an exciting thing to do. It's actually very, very emotionally hard. And so seeing that happen at such a like intense level, it was like, done. We have it. We don't need to do that again. I don't want you guys.
Try not to discuss it, really.
I don't know. If the movie connects with somebody, that's all that we really care about it, because you do make a movie for other people to see what you're seeing. You try to do things to connect with them and communicate with them, because that's what it's about, is you're trying to talk to people with this thing. And so that's really where it came from. It's like when I made eye contact with one person in Venice during the like crazy ovation, it was like, oh yeah, I'm looking at one person who really like loved it, and that made me feel amazing.
Just straight across, please. Straight ahead, please. Again, open your eyes this way, please. Emily, wave straight ahead, please. Straight ahead, back over to this guy here, please. Straight ahead. Thank you very much. To your left, please. And to your right here for me, please. Just there again. Coming to your right, please, guys. Just to the right. Okay. Just there, please, guys. Thank you. Can I get eyes this way, please?
Sometimes in acting, you know, when you talk about actors and they talk about gaining weight, and it's kind of like this fantasy element about it, where it's like, oh, you eat cheeseburgers and milkshakes, and it's, wow, I'd love that life. But it wasn't, because Mark Kerr had like a specific size with his muscle quality, and it's just different kind. Like he had fast, I know it sounds weird, but like fast twitch muscle fibers, because he was a wrestler and I had to move. So it's putting on that kind of quality of muscle, 30 pounds. Then there was the voice transformation, because Mark Kerr was a walking contradiction, and he looked incredible. He was the heavyweight champion of the world, but also he spoke very simple. He spoke from here up, not from the ground, like a lot of these guys speak from the ground. He spoke from here up. And he was so soft, and he was so tender, and he was so curious about life, and he was so empathetic, and he's so vulnerable, and he carried himself a different way. So there was the physical transformation. And by the way, you mentioned my legs. So Mark's legs, Mark had the biggest legs and the biggest shoulders and the biggest traps and neck and back. It's hard to express how hard that was to put on all that weight, and that was 30 pounds, but that's a lot of weight to carry. So, oh my God, I'm banging on. Hey, I'm done. Look, are you done? You're done when I say you're done.
Thank you very much. Thank you. To your left, please. Straight ahead, please. Wait, just to the right, please.
It's wild, you know, as a trailer park kid, and now any kind of conversation like that it's amazing. It's crazy, but also, you know, it feels like the best thing to do. And I talked to Emily about this, because obviously she's gone down this road with her nomination, but I just said, it feels like the best thing to do is for me just to stay focused on the thing that's right here, and stay present on this thing with me and you right now, and then this thing, and then whatever the next thing is. And I think you got to be careful about getting caught up in that, but also not like, oh, I don't think about it, because that's crazy. That's like wild when you think about it. Anyway, I get.
I mean, wildly different. You know, it was a completely different environment on this set, and we knew we were making something very intense and very special and very rare. I mean, the way Benny shoots is so visceral and so blurring the lines of reality and fiction. So it was, I mean, I wouldn't say there was a blooper reel on this one. You know, on Jungle Cruise, it was like impossible to get through a take, but on this one, we were wildly different versions of ourselves, I think.
But the thing that was amazing was, even everything I asked him, can you get bigger? He's like, I don't know if he'd ever been asked that, but I like asked. He's like, yes. And then we talked about at one point in the movie, he gets punched for real in the face multiple times. And I said, I don't want to cut away. And he's like, okay. And then he had to plead with the other actor to punch me in the face. Just don't do it in my jaw and don't kill me. This is a triple black belt that he's talking to, and the guy's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so he really, he was there through everything.
Guys, just